So I'm not going to try to catch up the 10 minutes by speaking faster, but thanks for still being here. The talk today is actually about, as you can read, about VR and AR for, well, workplace training, and why state-of-the-art is actually not enough. So I'm going to give you a little overview on some examples where VR and AR is very, very well suited for training. Of course, you're in the field, so probably you know about those anyways, but for medical training, for example, so VR and also AR applications are very tailored to train personnel in doing specific procedures, how to use tools. But basically, they can train the procedures in VR and AR, and then finally, after some time, basically, do the real testing in the real world. There's another area where VR is very, very helpful for training. It's in the safety situation. So for all personnel that actually work in a risky environment, so procedures can be trained in AR and VR safer, more efficiently, than in the real world. So basically, people can learn how to use tooling, how to use the tools, and how to do the proper procedures in order to avoid injuries afterwards. Of course, then there's a field which to the current forum. So it's about operations in airplane situations. So basically, operations training on the airport. Basically, here personnel also can train how to handle the devices properly, how to do the right procedures. So, but all those situations have actually one problem in common, except of the bad video. But I think you figured out basically it's all about interaction. So the problem is usually that people actually are required to learn manual tasks, to learn how to use their hands properly, but what they have available is just controllers. So state of the art, as you might know, of course, still is you need to push buttons in order to use your hands in VR. You need to have controllers in your hand in order to move your hands. That's actually breaking the immersion, of course, and it's non-intuitive, and especially for training applications, just doesn't work right. Another way of doing it is, of course, optical systems like the Leap Motion, which does an amazing job. However, those systems suffer from problems like self-occlusions or occlusion in general. So, again, I apologize for the bad video, but I think you get the idea. Those systems which rely on a single camera also kind of can't see all the movements of the hand. So as soon as I'm interacting with the real-world objects, I'm going to include my fingers. Even if I'm pointing away from the camera won't see my fingers anymore. So there's no way to track that, basically. So that's not going to be the solution to it. If you take a step back to just wrap up what actually happened the last 50 years or so, the beginning of computer-human interaction was probably punch cards. Then we had keyboards, we had mice, we had touch screens. And right now, there's still some people use the voice interfaces, but since the computational domain is actually changing, so VR is emerging, AR is emerging, it's a completely new field, and we need new input devices in order to be able to control that very intuitive environment there. So that's at Sensoryx, it's kind of also a product placement, but actually I want to motivate. The solution to that is, we think, is a system called VRfree. It's a glove-based system. I have it here with me. You can try it afterwards or tomorrow if you want to. It's a very lightweight mobile glove system which allows you to use your hands naturally in VR and AR. So the trick about this, it's a unique combination of different sensor types. Basically, we have a combination of ultrasound and optics, which allows us to track the hands very accurately in a mobile setting. So we're compatible with HTC Vive, with Oculus, but even with Oculus Go or all the other mobile headsets. So basically, everywhere you want to use the hands, you can use them, basically. So, again, stressing that point, there are other gloves out there. I'm going to get to that point in a second, but we're the only ones which are mobile, which makes it actually very useful for all the future applications, because I think we all agree that the future of VR and AR is going to be mobile application. Getting back to the point I made before, here you see the video, or at least a stuttering video, of our system being used in occlusion settings, so you're still able to use your hands naturally, and we're not suffering from occlusions there. we're intuitive in the sense that actually every movement you can do with your hands, we can replicate or actually capture in VR. So we have a demo down there. Again, if you want to try it out, come either tomorrow or on Sunday. You can paint in space, you can actually use your fingers, you can manipulate objects, you can play the piano, and so forth. Sorry for that. Okay. Again, it's mobile, and there are no real mobile headset out there yet which are very applicable, especially not for AR situations, but as soon as there are going to be there, we are ready actually to also provide hands for that. So here you see a little demo applications of our system being used in a Samsung Gear VR setting. So our developer there stands in the middle of a spot in Zurich and plays actually mini golf without having any trackers in the environment. So basically, he just needs to wear the goggles, the gloves, and our tracker, and that's it. So, again, you might have heard of other glove systems. The only thing is, none of those other systems have their own tracking, which makes our system actually the only one which allows natural hand use, since we can actually capture the full, articulation of all your finger and hand movements. We're the only one which is mobile, which doesn't need external infrastructure. We can track multiple users, multiple objects, and we are very easy to integrate. So we are already supporting the OpenVR standard. So basically, if you're programming against, the Knuckles controller interface, it's very easy to use our system. And we also provide SDKs for Unity, and recently we just finished the implementation of the Unreal plugin. The markets are very large, as you might guess, but we're focusing right now actually on aviation training. That's why we're here basically also, to get into this direction even more so. So it's very, very interesting application to train pilots or other personnel in aviation settings with hands basically. And in general workplace training, so say maintenance of machinery or production pipeline training, everything there can be done better with hands than with regular controllers. I talked a lot about our system, which we currently have, so the glove system. However, we are not sleeping. Basically, we are producing new stuff also. So very soon we're going to release a tracker unit, which you can attach to real-world objects. So let's say you want to track the position and orientation of the chair. So there's a small unit you can place there, and you soon be able to actually track it as well. We're going to add feet sensors also pretty soon, especially for medical applications. That's an interesting feature. So we report foot orientation, distance between the feet, but also pressure distribution. And it's all going to work with the same single tracker unit which you can mount on the head. Last but not least, since everybody wants that and we think it's a very good way of making VR space even more intuitive, we're also going to add haptics to the next version. Also in a mobile setting basically, so that you don't need, very clumsy gloves, but they should be very lightweight. But stay tuned, it's going to be actually released probably at the end of the year. We're a startup, so we're still pretty small, but I think we accumulated quite an interesting scientific and business background, so that's why we're actually moving quite fast. However, we still want to find new interested parties, so that's actually also why we're here. So if you have a project where you think, I need hands basically, just please come to our booth, talk to us. We would be very happy about that. I did quit quite faster than I thought, but anyways, I want to conclude the talk with the quote by Abrash, basically, which states, you're probably aware of that the whole environment is something new. It's not just another display or so. It's a completely new way of actually computing or interaction with computers. And I think the most important thing is the interface, how to communicate to the computer. And I think we at Sensoryx, we can solve that. Thank you.